Hello again, I am Blunty, that's Finn and that's Jake, and if you somehow missed the phenomenally enjoyable Cartoon Network series they hail from, it's called Adventure Time. These 3D-ified versions of the characters are in a video game called Adventure Time Magic Man's Head Games, and beyond that, it's actually a VR game.
Well, I'm just gonna call you Tiny. You wanna join our picnic?
Tiny seems kind of scared, dude. Don't worry, little thing. We just want to hang.
Maybe it's hungry. You want a sandwich?
Magic!
Holy smell! What's going on, Jake? Why is Tiny getting all huge?
It's available on Steam, and it's compatible with the HTC Vive, the Oculus Rift, and OSVR. It's also apparently available on the Mobile Gear VR, but I am playing it on my OSVR HDK2. There are no motion controls here, instead a traditional gamepad is your input method. Now, this game really isn't new. In fact, it launched in April earlier this year, and normally I'd not really bother with a review of a game so late after its release, but there's a couple of worthwhile things I wanted to take note of here. Firstly, I don't think it's unreasonable to assume there'll be a few of you out there with VR kits under your Christmas tree or other seasonal holiday gift-giving tradition plant. And in the current climate of the Wild West frontier of VR, frankly, there's a big wave of badly made shovelware to dig through to find the gems, so you may well be looking to find some worthwhile games to play. The other thing worth noting here is Adventure Time Magic Man's Head Games, alongside the Oculus Store exclusive Lucky's Tale, are two prime examples of VR games that attempt to take classic platforming gameplay into the VR world. It's easy to find first-person immersive VR titles. They are literally everywhere, and especially so shooters, and 95% of those shooters are lazy-ass basic wave shooters with the tired played-out zombie gimmick. Boring! But this game puts you in a third-person view. It's a bit like when you'd play with your Lego or action figures when you were a kid, or man-child. You're a giant looming presence over the playing field while your little adventurers gallop about in the world below you, and around you. And it actually works remarkably well. And here the fourth wall is broken by the conceit that you, your viewpoint that is that of a little creature of Ooo who has been turned into a large, gently floating balloon by the mischievous antagonist Magic Man. So now Finn and Jake are on a mission to catch Magic Man and make him answer for his magical prank, which also involves turning sandwiches into enemies.
Magic Man, you big butt. Change our friend back to normal size.
And why should I? What have you ever done for me?
Dude, you're just a weird old bully. Who cares about you, man?
Who indeed, chubby little dog? Oh, what do you see in these two, huh? Always faffing about like children.
Now, there's really no new ground trod when it comes to the game mechanics. It's all very classic, quite standard, even cliche, platformer fare. You've got a close range attack, you've got a jump and slam attack, you can jump between platforms, you've got a double jump, you can glide a bit, and you've got a ranged transport ability thanks to Jake's magical ability to stretch around. There's also nothing really new or even remotely innovative about the level designs. There are floating platforms and travelling carts, and fragile platforms only stable for a brief moment, and large fans to help you scale vertically around levels. You know the type of thing. If you've played more than 2 or 3 platformers in your time, you know exactly the kind of stuff you'll be facing.
Oh, a bouncy thing. Neat.
I've got a surprise for you.
There's also only 2 kinds of enemies, the aforementioned snappy sandwiches and also bad-tempered gnomes. And both are dealt with in basically the same way, the only difference being that the gnomes can fly about a bit and one kind of gnome has a ranged attack you must avoid. And the game really isn't very challenging at all. There's no real penalty to death, and you're never really faced with more than a couple of enemies at a time, leaving it all feeling rather shallow. And lastly, and most damningly, the game is literally a mere 25 minutes long. Now, the Steam page description claims 45 minutes of gameplay. That is a flat-out lie. Or perhaps they've based it on the experience of someone who time-travelled from 1823 and was completely bewildered by even the vague concept of these newfangled video games?
Finn, I know you like somersaulting and all, but I'm getting a little dizzy back here, bro.
There are also only 2 levels, and the ending comes very abruptly indeed, leaving me feeling like this was supposed to be a bigger game, but somewhere along the line Cartoon Network told developers Turbo Button that their time or money has run out and to just shove whatever they had ready out the door. And even for the mere $5 asking price, it feels like a pretty measly amount of game. The levels are also quite linear, so there's not a lot of replayability here either. How? As unoriginal and uninspired and frankly criminally short as it is, this can instead be positively viewed as a proof of concept or a demo about how nicely an otherwise standard platformer can be done really quite well in VR. The presentation is really quite nice. It's clean, it's bright, it's smooth, and the sense of depth and size of the world is quite convincing indeed. Unlike a standard screen-based platformer, the VR unhooks your view of the world from the character you're actually controlling. You can look around and away from Finn and Jake. You can seek out your path and see alternate paths which lead to the single type of collectible in the game.
Oh my gosh. New balloon, friend. Oh, I know, I'll snap a selfie. Say Magic Man to Donkus. Primo's gonna love that.
The three-dimensional view of your world also helps you better judge how far jumps are, something that has been a persistent issue in all 3D platformers on 2D screens. As an example of how a well-presented platformer can work in VR, it's worth the $5 it costs to play. It's a small, short, accessible, easily digestible game that isn't a first-person VR shooter or roller coaster or horror game, all of which we already have a suffocating amount of in the VR marketplace. Instead, Magic Man's head game serves as a bright, pleasant, pretty amusing, and classically Adventure Time charmingly experience that is accessible and comfortable to play. It shows you, and the people you might be hoping to introduce to VR, that there's a tangible, if subtle, benefit and joy to be found in wrapping other classic game types and genres into a VR world. So, as long as you go in knowing that it's a short, self-contained little mini-adventure with Finn and Jake being mildly wacky, you're likely to enjoy it. And I do genuinely hope that somewhere out there there's a game dev pointing at this and saying, "You see that? It works. Let's do that, but bigger and more."
Magic Man, quit being such a jerk.
So yeah, if you're looking for something nice and cheap and quite fun to expand your VR experiences, it's worth a go. Thanks for watching. I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.